Get started. It is June 3rd, 2025. This is our 5 p.m. board meeting. We're going to begin by indicating who's here. Julie, why don't you start?
Julie Jackson.
Kim Chandler.
Connie Burgess.
Chris Wynn.
Karen Winder.
Clark Nelson.
Todd Hopper.
Ben Horsley.
And Nicole McDermott. We're going to turn the time over to Justin and Chris to give us our update. Take it away.
Thank you, Granite School District Board and District Leadership. I've been told we'll do a quick version through here, talking about some dates, and then focus on some of the change orders. That's my understanding. Okay. So stop me if I go too fast and you want to back up and talk about projects, but generally speaking, we have our big projects started, abatement in multiple places. Brockbank and Magna L are two of our hot buttons this summer, as you all know. We've Micah Murphy and her team have been rock stars, moved out the schools last week. I think Wednesday she had Brockbank moved out entirely, and I think Friday Magna was moved out entirely. Huge kudos to her team and her and Rex. And abatement started. Getting all my dates confused, but started last week, goes for a couple of weeks, and then construction was working alongside as we can get in there and when things get cleaned and clearances are given. So those are two hot button items. We're pushing hard on it's the same contractor on both of those at Brockbank and Magna. Other projects, we've got flooring going on at Cotton High School. It's actually the third phase, but it's the second year. We jumped phase 2 and phase 3 around. Hunter.
Hey, Justin.
Yes, ma'am.
When does that one start?
Which we have abatement that starts. I'm 99% sure it's sitting in front of you to approve, and then once that's approved, they start on the 9th, and we can start flowing on the 19th. There has to be a 10-day off-gas period between the last abatement, and so there's a 10-day window. So the construction will start the 19th of June. The abatement starts the 9th of June, pending board approval.
So because I know there's summer groups that meet there. Is it just not happening in that area, or what?
Correct.
What's happening?
We have worked with the administration and others to make sure that we aren't blocking somebody off, and if so, we've got another way around it. And part of that was the reason why we jumped phases 2 and 3 around. We're doing phase 3 this year and phase 2 next year was for that as well. So okay. I think we're in good hands. Last I've heard, we've been working with the Ames principal as well, because it has to do with their area, and we're working on that. So
okay, thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah.
So Hunter Junior High, it says on here 70% remodel complete. I was told on Monday yesterday that basically everything but the AV is done, and they've done a really good job there. That's internal. Our own GSD folks, Troy Anderson and his group, have done a great job of remodeling Hunter Junior. So that's a great kudos to them. Silver Hills, the partition door is complete. The track at Hunter High is 97% complete. We're waiting on the last components of the ADA bleachers that will go in there, so we're wrapping that up this summer. The preschool courtyard is within a rail or two of being done, so we're real close there. I mentioned the Magna and Brockbank. Taylorsville High Auditorium house lighting project has already begun and is ongoing this summer. Spring Lane abatement will be done in the next week, and then it's a matter of the demolition and taking the building down. Just got a call this afternoon from one of the city people wanting to know when they can get their trusses. They want to make a pavilion out of that or whatever, and so we're working on that, but that's going really well. Transportation fueling station is set to be complete here in the next few weeks. They've added the fuel to the tanks. The asphalt and concrete are down. There's just a few things to button up there. And then they moved to, that was the maintenance, and they moved to transportation to replace those tanks. So those are two big projects that the state is required that we get done, and we've updated those. So that's a huge piece to have behind us. There's a small portion of Churchill Junior's roof that didn't get finished last summer. It has to do with some drainage. So we're gonna go back in and just open that up a little bit, get the drainage taken care of. So that's all buttoned up. That will help and happen. I think there's a change order pending your approval tonight on that. Hunter High site drainage starts this week. There's a little issue that seems like we have a flood at Hunter every August, and we're trying to get that fixed so that doesn't happen again. So that project kicks off here this week. And then Valley Crest, I believe we have some photos of Valley Crest. Here we go. You can see the new office there on the left and the bathroom behind. It's a sick room and restroom for the students there. So Valley Crest is about to move over to the new portion, and then we'll go in and remodel the what was the office and turn it into itinerant spaces. So that will be done by the end of July, just in time for the teachers when they come back in August. We have a bunch of carbon monoxide projects we're getting out to bid. Those are required by the state that all of our schools have a detector that lets you know if we have high levels of hazardous material or gas in our building. So we're wrapping up those up, as well as a few remaining HVAC projects that we're still working to get those buttoned up. Those are the big ones. I don't know if there's questions in it before I turn it over to Chris to talk about Skyline and Cypress, but any of those, anybody have questions on any of those projects? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board and staff. Just a very quick overview of what we have going on Cypress. We're scheduled to be completed at the end of the month. So we have a massive amount of work going on there right now in all of the areas throughout the building. As you can see from the list, that only is a very general overview. Westland has a large workforce out on site, and we've been working closely with the contractor and architect teams to ensure that we're going to be hitting there. Dallin Jones, the project manager for the school district, has been managing the furniture and other items of coordination with the school, with the existing Cypress High School staff, and there's a lot going on right now. And I think that probably suffices to say what's going on right now. There are some lovely pictures of a nearly complete school from the outside, the tennis courts, the sports facilities, the parking lots. The athletic facilities are looking pretty amazing right now. And I'm sure everyone's very eager to get in to the school later on this summer. There's still a considerable amount of work going on, as you can see from the photos. The culinary arts equipment, the kitchen area, the large public gathering area, and everything it's hard to say where we're done and almost where we're still storing stuff for other areas, and all the furniture showing up is a massive part of this process right now. So
I have a question. So
Yes.
There's a lot of rumors in my community that we won't be able to start on the starting date of school, and
There always are.
right? So I've heard anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months of online school because we won't be done. So can we just kind of get a tentative move-in date, or do we have that?
we're moving in before school starts, and we'll be operating.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted that on record. We will be moving in before school starts. Thank you.
Do you have a date of when we take possession of the property?
Yeah, right now it's the end of June. I was just gonna say, every day we have shipments of furniture and equipment arriving. So and that's just from stuff we've purchased, not from the existing facility that needs to come up. As Chris said last month, the migration hasn't happened yet, but I believe it's the 28th of June. We're working with Westland, and we want to make sure that there are a few changes. Some of those have some days, but right now I believe it's the 28th. I could be off by a day there, but sorry, Luke, but that's the date of when we can take occupancy. Pending, we have to have a few things taken care of, a health inspection, elevator, fire marshal, the elevators, things like that.
Those are all in the next few weeks.
So we are pushing, they're running as fast as they can. I don't know where that rumor started. I'm sorry to hear that. I had not heard that, but no, we have no intention of doing anything online.
It's probably the same people who said it last year at Skyline, right?
Probably. So thank you
Yeah, we
for
had the same rumor.
reassuring my community that this is
And we started
opening and happening.
right on time.
Yeah, I have all the confidence in the world in you guys because I've seen the progress, and but just wanted to make sure it's out there. We have an
And I guess
actual move-in day.
I believe Communications just filmed a video update on Friday that we can send out with an update to the community and push out on social media to help address that.
Perfect, thank you.
And as you know, there will be things that we're always chasing
sure.
and wrapping up, but we will not stop learning, and we will not put anybody in harm's way. We'll make sure it's safe. The state requires that as well, so
Yeah,
there's a lot to do, but it's obtainable.
thank you.
I will say this just for teachers learning from what happened at Skyline is that, sometimes, especially with the electronics, you don't know what's not working until everybody's in there trying to use it. And so I just would encourage teachers to be understanding that like those first few weeks, the electronic system is a little troubleshooty. So just if you're prepared for it, if you know it's coming, I think you're going to feel a little better.
Or a lot of troubleshooting.
Or a lot of trouble, yeah, okay.
And
Thanks for being honest.
Well, I mean, let's just be frank about it. And, the district staff last year performed a heroic level lift in working on that and making sure that's done. And they've got another huge lift this year. And I'm not joking. It's one thing when we're moving things from the academic building into the auditorium building and then from the auditorium building into this. But at Cypress, we are literally moving miles away, even a couple of miles. It's all got to get on a truck and it's all got to get moved over and it's all got to get unloaded. And Westland's working really hard right now to get the 3 elevators complete because it will take all 3 elevators to get everything to multiple levels of classroom building. It's 500,000 square feet plus,
Yeah.
so.
Their theme this year was lifting the anchor, so literally, they're lifting an anchor from that school and
If
taking
they
it
could
to
leave
the
all their
new-
ballast and their anchors at home, that would be helpful.
That would be great. That's heavyweight, right? Thanks so much.
I'd like to make sure we're giving those Cypress teachers some of their professional development days to move in, right?
We've not had that discussion, but we'll work with the community and those teachers as necessary.
Because we want to make sure that they get plenty of time. I believe we did that at Skyline, that they had a day.
Something comparable.
So we got to really make sure that they know that we're going to take care of them. And then the other question I had is, are our teams going to be able to start their August training on the new fields, or how's that going to look?
Sorry, the slide keeps. Yes, fields we should not have a problem with at all. We could be able to get and use the fields. It's just not going to be the start of June. And so we've had a conversation with some of those camps that happen right now, basketball and volleyball maybe. They're going to continue to have those at the old gym, the existing gym. And July 1, if we can move everything over, that'd be great. That's what we'll do. And if they want to make the switch and have the rest of the camp at the new gym, great. If they want to finish at the old gym, that's up to them. But for the seasons, yes.
And we've seen that already, that it's been out that, yeah, this is at the old main gym. The basketball camp has already started because they need us get going on some certain things, or summer camps for our students, the kids. So, yeah.
The Aux gym is off limits because
Because it's storage.
It's full of stuff.
It's the main gym.
Rock Bank is full of.
Yes. Wherever they can find a space right now.
I didn't touch the computer, I just moved the microphone.
Ashley,
It's not better.
he was fixing it.
Maybe it is. Okay, maybe we'll do that. There.
Okay, he did.
If you just stand right there. It's like when we were all kids, and your dad made you move the antenna around. We're all old enough, right?
Next slide.
Next slide, please. So the audio enhancement, the auditorium, actually, what you're not seeing right now is all the auditorium seating going in right now. So that's been the activity of the last couple of days, which is really neat to see. And it is a massive campus. I don't know what else to say. I've worked on colleges that have smaller campuses than this, so this is a huge lift, and Westland is working diligently in order to complete the things. So part of the 2 changes that we have in front of you is some of these things that we've been discussing for some time. For example, the first change we have is the HDMI changes. So this is actually an equalization of changes we made last fall when the teachers were moving in to the academic building, is that I wasn't part of the design process, but basically there was 2 teacher stations set up in each classroom, but however, only one of them had HDMI and other electronic capabilities. One was basically a main location, and the other one what I would describe as an auxiliary location at best, but it didn't have the same capability. And so at Skyline last fall, we made some, and that was part of that big lift by the district. And so this is making sure that we have the same facility. And this has actually been something we've been working on since last fall, just to make sure, one, we were doing it correctly. We met with considerable amount of district staff, had some review with the Cypress staff to make sure that we were getting buy-in and doing this right. And that's why it's a significant change, but it's basically increasing full capability for the teaching staff to run the classroom in a manner that gives them flexibility, and it wasn't built into the original design.
Do we not have wireless capability? Why do we feel like we have to have HDMI instead of just wireless?
I wish Rick Anthony was here. There was several meetings to discuss this, and I believe our staff believes that wireless is good to a point, but if everybody is on, they didn't feel comfortable with everything. I sure hope I'm not misquoting. That's not my area of expertise.
I think that's the gist of the conversation was from a capacity standpoint, from everybody using it. He felt like that this was what the capability within the bandwidth of the equipment, I think, is.
This has been going for a while, back and forth, several months, maybe even a year, and we ultimately ended up, we were told we were moving this direction. So that's what we're putting in.
I would dare say that the vast majority, if not almost 80% of our hardware is still run using hardwire connections, HDMI and network connections. We don't have nearly the wireless hotspot capacity to be able to take on all those pieces at this point in time. We just don't have the infrastructure built in and the stability for that to rely on that.
Are there any other questions regarding this change? So the second change at Cypress relates to one of the differences between the 2 facilities. For those of you who were able to be on the tour, or even some of the other conversations we had. So one capability that is at Cypress is that the back half of the auditorium, or it's 40% or something like that, actually is a retractable seating to have a large floor space within the auditorium to make it more flexible in terms of indoor space that might be usable for drill team practice or band practice or any of those other things. And so what happens is you have that large retractable thing, the large retractable set of seats, and what it does is it creates a fall condition when those seats are completely retracted up at the top. Now, the architect was explaining to me that, originally they didn't put that railing and other things up there because of the way that the mezzanine had been designed, but through the code review with the district personnel and stuff, it was felt the safest condition was to make sure that when that was retracted, that there was a railing to prevent accidental falls. And actually, very similar systems like you might see in a gymnasium where you have a railing around the top where you have retractable seats to try to protect people and keep people safe. And this is also a design that we went through probably a half a dozen iterations and reduced the cost significantly from what originally was being proposed by the design team. And this is a design that we feel like we need from a code standpoint and from a life safety standpoint, but this was the most economical version of that.
I would point out too, and this design has been in inception for several years, but this is the first time we've done retractable seating at the back of an auditorium to free up space, and it's kind of a unique solution. And while I would consider this design error, on the front end. And there is a process and procedure by which we address that with our design team and go back after the project is complete, since we've never done this before.
It's on the list.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I follow up on that? We do an internal audit, and we track all of our changes and assign responsibility where that change is who or what it's contributed to. If it's owner requested and the district is our own worst enemy, many times we're the ones making the changes. But if it's design or if it's unforeseen, we make that change, and then we go back to our designer at the end of the day and we talk about their responsibility in these changes and come to some agreement about what they need to help us cover some costs there. So we've had those discussions already. We will continue to have those discussions. We wait until the very end of the job so we have everything all put together, and then we do have that final discussion with them on that. I will say I did look at the numbers before I ran down here, and with these two change orders, if in fact they're approved by you as the board, that puts us at 2.14 or 5% change order cost. On a project, no one wants to see a $120,000 change order, but on a project as big as ours, if we can stay at 2% or maybe a teeny bit above, I think that's doing a great job. The state auditor was recently in and shared their findings. You probably saw the stories on the news. I called him and asked him to give us some information about Granite, how we are doing, what can we improve on, and what are we doing well. And he said one of the things that we do really well, maybe even more so than some other districts, is that we really scrutinize and minimize our change orders. Thanks to you all and to our team, BDK and our designers and our contractors, we work to minimize, find the cheapest possible solution to keep the cost down while not cheapening the school or making it so it's not durable and won't last 80 or 90 years. And so anyway, it was a nice kudo from the state auditor to say that we do a good job of keeping those costs as low as we can, even though we're seeing some of these kind of ugly numbers.
Are there any questions related to these two changes before we move to Skyline? Okay, so the Skyline projects, the academic phase, we are at the tail end of the one-year warranty on the academic, and there's a significant amount of effort being put into it right now to address the issues that were raised during school that we couldn't address during school. So that's what's going on this summer. And then the Performing Arts building, we are now moving into a lot of the interior work. Building H, the social studies portion of the academic wing, is progressing quite a bit ahead. But even the two classroom wings on either side, we have the black box theater on one side, we have choral and band on the other side, are starting to move into the rough-in and frame-out stages. And you can see the front of the auditorium is starting to get all the steel done to get ready for glass on the front of the auditorium. And it's really starting to look like a building. Quite a bit of significant work will go on this summer regarding the site work, both to the west and east of the projects in preparation for the new parking lots and some of the other things that will be going in preparation for the old auditorium, which will be taken down at actually beginning of next year in January, after the rest of the abatement is performed on that. As you can see, this is some of the inside of those areas I was just talking about with the interior concrete. All the subfloor plumbing is in, and you can see quite a bit of framing is done. And in preparation for the auditorium, seating areas and stuff, once again, like I said, the metal framing for the interior partitions for those of you who have been in the Cypress area, all of the different, the dressing areas, the different small rooms, the bathrooms, and all those areas are all being framed out right now within the auditorium. All of our air handlers, except for our famous outside air handler, are all being worked on simultaneously. So all of the boxes have been in last month, and now all of the fan units and electrical work and plumbing work are being going on those. We have had numerous loads of drywall and different things along those lines. As you can see, we're actually painting in the Building H area. And then, as I indicated, there is a considerable amount of site work, the underground, and getting ready to turn those all into parking lots. You could start to see the parking lot start to take shape. That will be east of that area. And I know everyone on site cannot be more excited to have more parking, or anybody who tries to drive on Virginia. So you can see our wonderful big S and the painting of the exterior tilt panels. The tilt panels are actually in exceptional shape, and especially we were rather fortunate, as I mentioned before, in terms of weather. Pouring concrete panels in the winter is always a little worrisome, but they've been exceptional, the quality on them. So the change I have before you for Skyline relates to a requirement from the city of Mill Creek. They originally reviewed the drawings, I believe, 3.5 years ago when they were submitted, for somewhere in that time frame. And at the time, certain portions of the sidewalk in front, basically there's a requirement that anytime you put in a new driveway, you're doing X amount of sidewalk repair on each side of it. As we were getting ready to do that, and that's something we're doing this summer, there were some further discussions with Mill Creek about other areas along the frontage that don't meet pedestrian safety or ADA requirements, and our meeting with Mill Creek on site, they were quick to point out some ordinances and codes that require that within the city district that certain areas would need to be replaced as part of our project, and these concerns were not addressed originally. So, there
So
are.
this is Mill Creek's fault, is that what you're telling us?
I didn't say fault. Mill Creek's requirements.
All city have codes, Nicole.
I'm just kidding.
Also,
I'm not stepping in the middle of that one.
Also, Mill Creek has been such an incredible partner to us.
She's just poking at me. It's
They
okay.
have, Mill Creek's a great city.
Yeah, we've appreciated them a lot.
We love them.
Particularly on the west end of the project, there's a significant amount of sidewalk that doesn't meet code. And this is replacing the frontage, basically along most of the entire frontage along Upland Drive.
So this wasn't included in the original scope and was not seen or observed by the city staff at
During
the
the
time.
permitting process.
Right,
It was
so
not.
regardless, we're still obligated under the code for this piece of the project, so we were going to have to pay this piece regardless.
paid
It
it
just,
then.
it would have been nice if we had caught it, or they had caught it at the front end, and is that fair to say?
And we had roughly half of the sidewalk was in the scope. It was this other half that we thought we could get by. And after further examination, and we met with John Miller, it was great to come out. We talked, walked it. It was determined that it would be best if it was removed. I had hoped they would volunteer to help partner on that, but I think they're not. So that's why you have a change.
Ultimately, this falls to the owner,
It does. It
and
does.
that's us in this particular case.
I think that's accurate on all details.
It's the right thing to do.
Chris, I wonder if you would just update the board on what the next year is going to look like for students and teachers. The movement, you know how there's going to be like the closure of the theater, and can you just make sure, I want them to understand what's happening there.
Okay, so
What I'm asking.
well, I'll give it a shot, and then you tell me if I covered all the bases. So going on this summer, there is some portions of the old auditorium that will be abated. We're trying to speed up the process to where when Christmas time comes, that abatement process goes quickly so that old auditorium goes down quickly. But basically, this fall will be the last season in that old auditorium building. And right now, what's going on this summer is quite a bit of site work and all the underground utilities and drainage because many of these drainage areas actually run right through where that old auditorium is and connecting to the drainages that are on the far side. So basically, the rest of this summer, we will continue with the auditorium building and the academic wing H's, I, and J. And then all of that site work will be, a considerable portion of that site work will be done this fall. The auditorium goes down in January, at the end of January following the abatement. Those very large panels that are on the outside, those exposed aggregate panels, I think is probably the right term to call them. There's a specific term for those lovely 60s chip panels. But they are massive, and they are completely coated with asbestos. And so those panels have to be taken down one at a time. And so by the end of January, the rest of the abatement, the rest of the demolition of the old auditorium will go down. Then, so that's going to push the access for the front entryway of the academic wing, basically to the basically we're using the sidewalk around the football field on the south end. We're actually going to be putting in an ADA access ramp for people to go around that area to access the academic portion of the project. And May, end of May, most of the physical work on the auditorium building and those academic wings will be completed. The last unit, AH-12, which is sitting outside, will be taken down and reinstalled inside of the building. And then while all this is going on, the new long front entrance way, which goes to Virginia, will be constructed, and that will be completed August, September, in the fall, I believe. And then the rest of the landscaping along those lines. And then everyone will be moving into those portions, and then the portable buildings out back will go on their merry way to wherever their next destination is. Does that adequately cover?
So what that means for like students and teachers is that their final concerts, et cetera, will happen in December this year. They'll tear down the building, all of the performing arts and maybe a couple of other classes, I believe, will then at that point be displaced. They'll neither have the old gym auditorium nor the new one, so they will go to portables for 6 months, right? Or for the last semester.
Correct.
And until they can get moved back in a year from.
So where will they be performing?
They won't
have
be
any-
performing.
Well, they will be.
Oh, well, their spring will be at Wasatch, is that right? We
I was
decided?
going to say, yeah, there's conversation either Wasatch or
They haven't
other
decided.
locations.
But they're moving all their major production up to December. So they'll have instead of having a huge end of year concert in spring, they're planning on doing that in December and making it a huge deal. So,
We for sure will enable them to have more performances if they want. We'll figure that out, whether it's at the junior high or a neighboring
Say
high school.
That's part of their grades, is that they have to have performances that
they're
are.
like, no, they will be.
The real hardship is,
remembered after I said that. There's a lot of talk of doing that at Wasatch.
the real hardship is having those really large performing arts classes not in a space that accommodates them well. Not to mention that whatever space they take, another teacher is in right now, and so they have to be displaced. So it'll be a little bit of a juggle for a few months.
Not the bathroom's great.
Are there any other, was there anything else I missed? Okay. If there's not any further questions, thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We do not have a need for an executive session, so we are going to go ahead and adjourn for dinner.